Carmine, the Snake Persico, born on August 8, 1933, was one of the most notorious and long-serving mafia bosses in American history. He led the Colombo crime family, one of New York's 5 families, for over 3 decades, both from the streets and later from prison. Persico was known for his cunning, ruthlessness, and ability to maintain control over his organization despite repeated legal challenges. His long reign, from the 1970s until his death in 2019, left a lasting impact on the Colombo family and organized crime in America. Early life and entry into organized crime. Carmine Persico was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, into an Italian-American family. Like many future mobsters, Persico grew up in a rough neighborhood, and by his teenage years, he was already involved in petty crime. By the age of 17, he had dropped out of high school and joined a street gang known as the Garfield Boys. His early reputation for violence and loyalty to his gang caught the attention of local mafia leaders. In the early 1950s, Persico was recruited by the Prophesy crime family, which would later become the Colombo family. Under the leadership of Joseph Prophesy, the family was involved in various criminal enterprises, including loan sharking, extortion, and drug trafficking. Persico quickly rose through the ranks due to his fearlessness and ability to handle violent tasks. Prophesy Gallo War. One of the most significant early events in Persico's criminal career was the Prophesy Gallo War of the early 1960s. The war began when Joe Gallo, a capo in the Prophesy family, rebelled against the leadership of Joseph Prophesy, accusing him of greed and unfair distribution of profits. Persico initially sided with the Gallo brothers and helped them in their revolt. However, in a cunning move that earned him the nickname, the Snake, Persico switched sides, betraying the Gallos and aligning himself once again with Prophesy. His betrayal of Gallo solidified his standing in the Prophesy family and demonstrated his strategic mind and willingness to do whatever it took to rise within the mafia. Rise to power. The Colombo family. Following the death of Joseph Prophesy in 1962, the family underwent significant leadership changes. Joseph Colombo eventually became the boss in 1963, renaming the family after himself. Colombo's leadership initially brought some stability, but tensions remained between the family factions. During this time, Persico continued to rise in prominence within the organization. In 1971, Colombo was shot and incapacitated at an Italian-American Civil Rights League rally, a movement he had founded. With Colombo out of the picture, the family was thrown into chaos, leading to another internal struggle. Persico played a key role in consolidating power during this time. He became the official boss of the family in the mid-1970s, following a series of violent confrontations with rival factions. Reign as boss. Carmine Persico's reign as the Colombo family boss was marked by his ability to navigate the treacherous world of mafia politics and law enforcement pressure. He was a cunning and pragmatic leader, balancing diplomacy with brutality when needed. Persico managed to maintain control over the family despite being arrested multiple times and even while serving prison sentences. The Commission Case, 1986. One of the most significant events during Persico's reign was the Commission Trial in 1986, in which federal prosecutors used the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, to target the leadership of New York's 5 families. Persico, along with bosses from the Gambino, Genovese, Lucchese, and Bonanno families, was charged with a wide range of crimes, including racketeering, extortion, and murder. Despite being offered a plea deal, Persico chose to represent himself at the trial, a rare and risky move. He was convicted and sentenced to 100 years in prison. However, even from prison, Persico continued to exert control over the Colombo family, maintaining his position as boss for decades. Colombo Wars. Persico's leadership was further challenged by internal family conflicts. The Colombo Wars, a series of violent struggles for power within the family, erupted multiple times during his reign. The First Colombo War, 1960. This conflict occurred during the Prophesy Gallo dispute and laid the groundwork for future tensions in the family. Persico's betrayal of the Gallos during this period solidified his position in the family. The Second Colombo War, 1991 to 1993. This war was one of the bloodiest internal mafia conflicts in New York history. It was sparked by a power struggle between Persico, who continued to run the family from prison, and Victor Orena, the acting boss appointed by Persico. Orena attempted to take control of the family, but Persico loyalists resisted, leading to a violent feud that resulted in the deaths of numerous mobsters on both sides. Ultimately, Persico's faction won, and Orena was imprisoned, but the war left the Colombo family weakened and under heavy law enforcement scrutiny. Leadership from prison. Even while serving a life sentence, Persico managed to maintain a degree of control over the Colombo family, which was an extraordinary feat in the mafia world. He appointed various acting bosses to handle the day-to-day operations, while still calling the shots from behind bars. His ability to maintain power from prison earned him a reputation as one of the most resilient and resourceful mafia leaders of his time. However, Persico's long-distance leadership came at a cost. The family was increasingly fractured, with many members questioning his decisions, especially as law enforcement pressure grew. The Second Colombo War significantly weakened the family's power, making it one of the most unstable of the five families by the late 1990s and early 2000s. Later years and death. By the early 2000s, Persico's influence began to wane as the federal government continued to crack down on the mafia. Many of his associates were either imprisoned or turned informants, further weakening the Colombo family. Nevertheless, Persico remained the official boss of the family until his death. Carmine Persico died on March 7, 2019, at the age of 85 while serving his life sentence at the Federal Correctional Complex in Butner, North Carolina. His death marked the end of one of the longest and most controversial reigns of any mafia boss in American history. Legacy. Carmine Persico's legacy is a complex one. On one hand, he was a shrewd and capable mafia boss who managed to maintain power for an extraordinary amount of time, even while imprisoned. His ability to manipulate people, make strategic alliances, and crush rivals earned him respect and fear within the mafia world. On the other hand, his leadership led to significant internal conflict within the Colombo family, and his decision to continue ruling from prison ultimately contributed to the family's decline. Persico's long reign, punctuated by violence and legal battles, left the Colombo family in a weakened state, and the family has struggled to regain its former influence in the years since his death. Nevertheless, Persico remains a towering figure in the history of organized crime in America, a symbol of both the power and pitfalls of mafia leadership.